So what are we to make of all this? Well, I'm joined by the Conservative MP Jacob Rees Mogg, the Labour MP Jim McMahon, and the DUP's Emma Little-Pengelly. Emma, let me start with you. The DUP are actually in a pretty pivotal position when it comes to universal credit, should there be a vote. Now, we don't know if there will be a vote, but do you back the calls to halt the rollout of universal credit?
Well, of course, universal credit has been agreed already in the House, so it's not an issue that is likely to come up in any detail. First of all, I think the key question here, are there any flaws in universal credit? I can't imagine that any government wants a flawed system. However, it's also clear that a number of people are playing politics with this. It's not at all clear if these flaws are part of the scheme as agreed. I would also point out in Northern Ireland, of course, we do have some mitigations in relation to universal credit. So, for example, we do have a fortnightly payment which will roll out as it continues to roll out across Northern Ireland. So we have considered some of these issues. There are some differences in Northern Ireland, and I imagine the government will want to look at that, look at the pilots, look at the rollout, and if there are problems, I would imagine that the government will want to address those.
OK, Jim McMahon, the difficulty from Labour's point of view in bringing about a halt to the rollout is how do you engineer a Commons vote?
Well, I think the first point is generally people accept that a single benefit system is far better than a myriad of different systems that are often confusing for people to find the way through. So that's right, but what isn't right is the delays that are inbuilt into it that make it extremely unfair to applicants. First of all, they're faced with a 2-week delay, and then it's backdated by a month or 6-week period where people are often without any payment whatsoever. On top of that, when people have a minor change in circumstance, for instance having a child, they have to go through the whole process again, and there are inbuilt delays in the system again. So even if you believe in a single system, actually there are faults in the system that do need to be addressed, whoever's in government. And I suppose the frustration is the government are aware of this. They have their own backbenchers who are calling for a review of it, but seem to be absolutely stubborn in their position that they're not going to look at it.
OK, Jacob Rees Mogg, it is, to say the least, very odd, isn't it, that people who are already really having to struggle have to wait 6 weeks. I mean, could you survive 6 weeks without getting a salary?
My personal circumstance is relevant to this. It's much more important that payments are made to people who need them. It was very reassuring to hear the Prime Minister say that the advance payment system is being improved, that the number of advance payments is increasing, and that people know that advance payments are available. The great thing about the universal credit system is that it really does help people get back into work, and it simplifies the overall benefit system for them. These are really important advantages, but you don't want people to go without money for 6 weeks. I completely accept that.
Let me just put it to you, even under the Prime Minister's figures, only 50%, half of all new claimants are getting advances, which means 50% are not and are having to struggle to get by for 6 weeks.
And therefore we've got to do better on that and make it possible for more people to get advance payments to see them through.
But there is and thinking again?
No, it means continuing to roll out, because where it's been rolled out, and my constituency was one of the areas where they did a pilot scheme, it has worked well, it can be implemented successfully. And the point of universal credit is that it should mirror the conditions of employment as far as possible. So most people in employment are now paid monthly, and it's going back to that system.
Jim McMahon, you said it'd be a disaster.
It will be a disaster. There are 2,000 people in my constituency who are currently part of the pilot. That's going to roll out to 19,000. We're already helping 10% of people who are in the universal credit system. The idea that we take on a significant amount more casework on that, because the advanced system is just that, it's a loan. So that's taken off future payments that benefit recipients ought to get. So if you're struggling where you haven't got spare money at the end of the week and the end of the month, you can't afford for that advance to be taken, because it puts you in a debt cycle that can last a year or two.
OK, no PMQs is complete without Brexit. Emma, how comfortable are you with a no-deal scenario? Because it would appear a growing number of Conservative MPs think not only that it's likely, but maybe even desirable.
Well, I think the Prime Minister made very clear that the aim is not no deal. The aim is to get the best possible deal for the United Kingdom and for Northern Ireland, Scotland and Wales and England as part of that. That is something we completely support. I would say as well that in terms of no deal, I think it's important to say to the European Union, unless this deal is right, unless you come to the table with us as partners and we try to get all of the issues that's important to us as the UK, that's important to you as the European Union, unless we get those resolved, we are prepared to walk away, because what's worse than no deal is a bad deal for the United Kingdom.
Jacob Rees Mogg, if the EU doesn't budge at next week's summit, is it time to seriously think about walking away?
We have to be ready for no deal partly as an insurance policy, that in the negotiations, if we get to the end of them with no deal and it looks as if we're not ready, then the EU's ability to demand billions from us will be much increased. We need it because the European Court of Justice could, and this came up at a select committee this morning, could rule that any deal was invalid anyway. And so we might find very late in the process there is no deal. Making contingency plans is what governments do. As it happens, I think in classic EU form, we will get a deal at the 59th minute of the 11th hour.
Okay, folks, we have to leave it there. Thanks very much indeed for your time. Going to be a critical summit, obviously, next week, and we'll just see whether the EU decide that, yes, we can move on to the next stage of talks.
No, I don't think it's fair at all. No, I won't have people be rude to me. Some journalists think because I'm a politician, they can treat and speak to me just how they choose. Let me tell you one thing, and let me make this very clear. I'm not a professional politician. I'm an ordinary man, an ex-soldier, and from the rugby club. You treat me badly, you'll get a lot worse than that. Let me make that very clear. I will not put up with that sort of impertinence.
Is that a